you want to lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth from the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. A lot to cover today. The U.S. House passed a massive foreign aid bill over the weekend, ending months of a stalemate and division among lawmakers. The package passed in 4 separate votes, including about $61 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, $8 billion for allies in the Indo-Pacific, and a package of other national security measures, including a potential ban on the TikTok app. Senator Lindsey Graham also yesterday stressed the urgency of support to Ukraine, warning Russian President Putin will not stop, he said. According to the NBC News poll, Trump leads Biden among voters in handling a crisis, being competent and effective, dealing with inflation, having the necessary physical and mental health, and having a strong record as president, all problem areas for Joe Biden. We have the latest on this NBC News poll. And is President Trump handing a golden ticket to whomever he picks as his running mate for vice president in November? Probably so, and the Republicans jockeying for the position are smart enough to know it. We have some details on that as well. Mike Gallagher and I traveled up to Wilmington, North Carolina on Saturday to attend a Trump 2024 rally. Ultimately, it was canceled due to a horrible thunderstorm, but still it was refreshing and encouraging to see thousands of patriots wait for hours to see the former president. We got a chance to speak with some of those. I want to share that with you as well. And what happens to all that loose change in your pockets and often just gets tossed to the side, sometimes even in the trash? One company is taking advantage of this casual relationship we have with coins, and it's paying off big time. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639 is the Furman Ford text line. Your comments are welcome, as are your voice messages. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
On our guest line this morning, Senator Tim Scott.
Thank you for listening to one of the best radio shows. Joey, God bless your leadership.
Joey, congratulations on your new show.
I just wanted to let you know that I always appreciate your perspective and your common sense approach to the issues.
You know what? If people like you keep telling us the truth, believe me, we're paying close attention.
Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday stressed the urgency of support to Ukraine, warning that Russian President Putin will not stop, he said, even if successful in Russia's war with Kyiv. Appearing on Fox News Sunday, Senator Graham said that those who are arguing that the U.S. is not capable of assisting countries in multiple conflicts and different parts of the world are just simply wrong.
Well, if you want American military members to stay out of the fight with Russia, help Ukraine. If they go into a NATO nation, Russia, we're in a fight. So with all due respect to Senator Vance, he's wrong. We were told within 4 days Kyiv would fall.
But is he wrong about the math?
Yeah,
is he wrong about the production?
He's wrong about the whole concept that we can't deal with multiple problems. In World War II, we fought the Germans and the Japanese. We have an industrial base that needs to be retooled. But the Ukrainian military, with our help, has killed about 50% of the combat power of the Russians. This is the year of more. They're going to have more weapons, but we also want them to have new weapons, ATACMS, to knock the bridge down between Crimea and Russia. They're going to have F-16s. So this idea, give up on Ukraine makes the world safer. If you pull the plug on Ukraine because you don't have enough capability, there goes Taiwan. The Ukrainians are fighting like tigers. This aid package has a loan component to it. This would not have passed without Donald Trump. I want to thank the House Speaker and Hakeem Jeffries working together in a bipartisan fashion to give weapons to Ukraine to fight a fight that matters to us. And President Trump has created a loan component to this package that gives us leverage down the road. So this idea that we can't help Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan at the same time, I reject that. I reject it totally.
Senator Graham's remarks regarding the threats of foreign adversaries and Putin come one day after the House passed a massive foreign aid bill ending months of the stalemate and division among lawmakers, division among GOP House members. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. The package passed in 4 separate votes. It includes about $61 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, $8 billion for allies in the Indo-Pacific, and a package of other national security measures, including a potential ban on the TikTok app. The package now goes to the Senate, which is expected to pass the package sometime in the middle of this week. Now, Ukraine President Zelensky reiterated yesterday that the U.S. is not funding war in his country, emphasizing that the U.S. is helping protect democracy throughout the region. NBC host Kristen Welker asked Zelensky on Meet the Press how long Americans can expect to fund the war in Ukraine, noting that there's been some strong opposition to sending additional aid to his country. Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine is doing the fighting and the U.S. is only providing the munitions.
The Americans are not funding the war in Ukraine. They first and foremost protect freedom and democracy all over Europe. And Ukraine is fighting, and Ukraine is sending its best sons and daughters to the front line, and it reduces the price for all Europe, for all NATO. It reduces the price for everyone, including the U.S. as the leaders in the NATO. U.S. Army now does not have to fight protecting NATO countries. Ukrainians are doing that.
As mentioned a minute ago, the House approved this massive foreign aid package and sent it over to the Senate. They passed it on Saturday before leaving for a few weeks. They are in recess until the end of April. Zelensky urged the Senate to pass the aid for his country quickly. After the House passed the foreign aid package over the weekend, conservative policy addendums that provide assistance to fight back on radical regimes are the enemies of America, Congressman Jeff Duncan said in a statement that he released, saying, "I'm disappointed that this aid package pretends that America isn't $34 trillion in debt and facing the onslaught of Biden's border crisis. It's my belief that these bills should have secured our border and included a pay-for, a federal program to defund and reallocate money to recover the cost of the aid. However, that is not what the House was given for consideration," he said. Now, of course, you know, there's been a lot of talk over the weekend since this aid package was passed as to whether or not Speaker Mike Johnson will survive this. We'll talk about that in a moment. Marjorie Taylor Greene has her own thoughts on that. Congressman Duncan said today the House did not pass the End the Border Catastrophe Act, which largely mirrors H.R. 2, he said. It builds a border wall, limits asylum, reinstates remain in Mexico, and limits the options to legally immigrate to create efficiency. However, the bill did not remove the E-Verify requirement that he supported in H.R. 2, he said. He said, "While I believe the legislation could have been drastically better than what we were given in the Democrat foreign aid rule, I could only vote on the bills before me and what is in the best interest of the 3rd District of South Carolina." He said, "I voted yes on H.R. 8034, the Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations, yes on H.R. 8038, the 21st Century Peace Through Strength Act, yes on H.R. 8036, the Indo-Pacific Security Supplemental Appropriations, and no on H.R. 8035, the Ukraine Security Supplemental Appropriations Act." He said he voted yes on H.R. 3602, the End the Border Catastrophe Act. Again, each of these sections of the bill were voted on separately. Meanwhile, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said yesterday on America Futures on Fox that a motion to vacate Speaker Mike Johnson is coming regardless of what he decides to do in the near future. Calling Speaker Johnson a lame duck, Ms. Greene says that she believes every single American should be furious over what happened on Saturday.
There is more support. It's growing. I've said from the beginning I'm going to be responsible with this. I support my majority. I support the majority next time. I do not support Mike Johnson. He's already a lame duck. If we have the vote today in our conference, he would not be Speaker today. He's already a lame duck. He can't raise money. Everyone knows it. We know we can't win the majority next year without raising money. He can't be Speaker. He doesn't have the vote. And then he did this in here on the House floor, foreign war package that does nothing for America. It's unbelievable. I'm thankful that America gets to see who this man is. I'm thankful that America gets to see who the people that voted for this is, because this is the only way it's going to change. This is the sellout of America today. When we had members of Congress in there waving the Ukrainian flag on the United States House of Representatives floor, while we're doing nothing to secure our border, I think every American in this country should be furious.
The House Speaker, who was elected in December of last year, has completely betrayed Republican voters all over the country, and he is absolutely working for the Democrats, pipe-passing the Biden administration's agenda, Ms. Green argued. So this is a speakership that is completely overwhelmed. Now, some Democrat lawmakers, though, including Representative Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, said they would move to back Mr. Johnson after the Ukraine deal was passed. There's been speculation that Speaker Johnson could probably rely on some Democrats to keep his job. Mr. Khanna, who describes himself as a progressive Democrat, said that Mr. Johnson needs credit for the aid package, adding that he would vote to shelve a motion to vacate him. He told ABC News, "I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that, and I disagree with Speaker Johnson on many issues, but he did the right thing here, and he deserves to keep his job until the end of this term." Currently, Representatives Thomas Massey, Paul Gosar have publicly said that they would back Ms. Green's move to vacate, although more could join her soon, according to her statements. Representative Tom Cole, Republican from Oklahoma, told CBS Face the Nation yesterday that Mr. Johnson appears likely to keep his job if a motion is submitted. He says, "I don't think you'd lose very many Republicans," adding that still it doesn't take very many Democrats to either not vote or to oppose it. He said, "We're in a bipartisan era in a strange way where Democrats will be able to back the speaker on the other side of the aisle and not have him vacated out of the chair." He said that he thinks Mr. Johnson is in good shape. Again, the House is currently in recess until the end of April, so nothing will be happening anytime soon. 864-477-JOEY is the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Love to get your comments on whether or not you think Marjorie Taylor Greene should move to vacate the speaker. Do we need to be in the middle of another vote, another battle for a new speaker in the middle of an election year? Is this a good move? Is this a smart move for the GOP House conference? Love to get your feedback on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. According to the NBC News poll that was released over the weekend, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden among voters in handling a crisis, being competent and effective, dealing with inflation, having the necessary physical and mental health, and having a strong record as president. I'll give you the details on this latest NBC poll in just a moment. First, let me talk about something very personal to you, and that's your weight, or maybe the fact that you are overweight. Now, I'll leave that up to you to decide, but if you feel like you are and you're ready to shed a few pounds and you're ready to lose weight for the last time, I have the solution for you. Write this number down, 864-252-4925. Call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition today. Set up your initial consultation. Sit down with one of the fabulous PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition coaches and see if this program's right for you. If you want to lose weight and get healthy, I got to believe it's going to be just the perfect solution for you, because they'll help you lose that weight, and they'll also give you the skills to keep it off for the rest of your life. That's what I love about PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I lost 30 pounds in my journey. This was almost 4 years ago, and boy, am I glad I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at the Greenville office of PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. They have offices in Asheville, in Charlotte, in Lake Norman, and you can do the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition program anywhere that you have access to a telephone. It's just that simple. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Call them today, 864-252-4925. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. They're the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So NBC News' Steve Kornacki kind of sounded the alarm on the network's latest polling, noting that there's some troubling numbers for President Joe Biden as he trails former President Trump in several key categories, such as mental and physical health. Kristen Welker said on Meet the Press, competent and effective, that was President Biden's, that was the crux of his campaign pitch in 2020, she said. Kornacki noted that back in 2020, the numbers were flipped and voters viewed Biden as being more competent and effective. The poll found that 47% of voters view Trump as competent and effective compared to just 36% who view Joe Biden the same way.
Troubling for the Biden campaign, the erosion of public confidence on a number of critical fronts. We asked voters in this poll about a number of leadership characteristics here. Which candidate would be better? There are two, only two where Biden has the edge over Trump. Abortion. We've talked about this one, seen this for a long time here.
That's a big one.
It is, certainly is. That's the biggest Biden advantage in this poll. And then bringing the country together. Biden, you see, performing better than Trump. But I think the headline here is you add those two numbers together, you're not even close to 100. That means a lot of voters think neither candidate is better on that. And then on every other front here, we talk about the erosion for Biden, and now you start to see it. Look at these numbers. Trump advantages on all of these traits.
And I stop here because competent and effective, that was President Biden's, the crux of his campaign pitch back in 2020.
And we actually polled this question in 2020, and it was basically the exact opposite. It was Biden with about a 10-point advantage over Trump. And again, same with handling a crisis. Biden had the edge over Trump. And how about this? It's the former president, the current president. We don't really see matchups like this. Well, now we can measure it. Who has the strong record as president? And again, Trump outpacing Biden on that front. And again, you got to mention this one, too. Necessary mental and physical health. We asked this 4 years ago. It was a wash. It's now a clear liability for Joe Biden. So these are all troubling numbers for Biden.
Biden leads Trump in just two categories: his ability to bring the country together and in dealing with abortion. However, Kornacki noted a lot of voters believe neither candidate was better than the other in their ability to bring the country together. Welker and Kornacki noted that the poll's findings on RFK Jr. standing in the election, as many believe Kennedy would spoil the election for Biden and lead to a Trump victory. However, the poll found that RFK Jr.'s name on the ballot in some hypothetical matchups would actually benefit Joe Biden and not Donald Trump.
But it's not to say there aren't warning signs for Donald Trump in this poll either.
Well, Trump and his campaign are hoping a third-party candidate might give them a little bit of a boost, but our poll shows it's a little bit murkier than that.
That's the thing, because, again, we show a 46-44 race here for Donald Trump. Again, all those liabilities for Biden, Trump only ahead, too. What the Trump folks have been hoping is RFK, third-party candidates, they gobble up some votes, and Trump doesn't need to get to 50%. But look what happens when we add RFK's name to the mix. Suddenly, we have a new leader. Joe Biden, 39%. Donald Trump, 37%. There's Kennedy getting 13%. In other words, we're seeing by a better than 2-to-1 margin, it's Trump voters who are flipping over to Kennedy in this scenario, not Biden voters. You see it right here. 15% of Trump voters, when we add RFK's name to the mix, they go to RFK. Only 7% of Biden voters. So there's a big change right there.
Defies conventional wisdom. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, it is a bit concerning, although I'm not sure I've been buying the argument that RFK on a third-party ticket would be helping Trump anyway. Kornacki compared Biden's job approval, which currently is around 42%, to past presidents at the same point in their presidency leading into their election or their campaigns for re-election. Biden's 42% approval rating was the lowest among recent presidencies, including Donald Trump's in 2020.
So again, these are encouraging signs for Joe Biden, although broader picture here, this 42% approval rating, history says, probably by itself not enough. He's probably going to need more, because put this in some context here. These are other recent presidents at this point in their re-election campaigns. Where were their approval ratings? Again, you see Biden's 42%. One thing that jumps out, they were all higher than Joe Biden. The other thing, the two presidents on this list who did not win re-election, of course, Donald Trump 4 years ago, he was at 46%. And back in 1992, George H.W. Bush, he was at 43%. Biden below both of those. The last time Biden's been at this level, 46%, you got to go back to the start of 2023. The last time he was higher than that, you got to go back to the summer of 2021, his first year as president. So Biden has some work to do on that front.
Mr. Kornacki also noted that voter interest in 2024 is the lowest it's been since NBC News started polling the question back in 2008. Polling in key battleground states shows that the race will prove to be a close one, as Biden and Trump are currently tied at 48% in Pennsylvania, for example. This according to Fox News' latest poll. In North Carolina, Trump leads Biden by just 2 percentage points, according to a poll released in early April. Now, speaking of North Carolina, I'll have to add my own analysis to this. And I've said this many times. You have to factor in the campaign that Donald Trump is running. He's out there doing these huge rallies still. Mike Gallagher and I, Mike was in town over the weekend with us. We traveled up to Wilmington, North Carolina. It was sort of a last-minute trip. Hadn't planned to do this. But Trump had a 2024 rally scheduled for Wilmington, North Carolina at the airport there. This was on Saturday. People had started to line up like they often do at these rallies at 2 a.m. in the morning to see Donald Trump speak at 7 o'clock Saturday evening. Ultimately, sadly, the rally was canceled due to a horrible thunderstorm that came in. We literally, we were sitting there. Mike and I were on the second row. We had great seats. We were sitting there at about 6:30. They had already started moving things around. We could, because of our seats, we could see backstage where they would be pulling Trump's airplane up to the back, and which is often what he does, and then would walk through an area and come on stage. We saw them gathering some of the local officials there, ready to greet the president. And they were playing their usual patriotic music, and suddenly the music stopped. We could see the wind had picked up. It had gotten darker. The cloud cover was closer, and we could see some lightning in the far distance. Our pilot who had flown Mike and me up there was checking his radar on his phone app and told us that there was a small front that was passing through. That was nothing to worry about. There was a huge front about an hour away that was going to hit the airport directly. And it involved some heavy winds, lightning, and lots of rain. And that's the reason, even though it wasn't raining at the time, that's the reason that they called the rally off. Now, here's sort of the neat thing, if there was anything positive about having to cancel this rally that had a lot of work had gone into, was they had the president. He was literally on his plane almost to Wilmington, set to land. And so he was able to call in and talk to all of us in the crowd and tell us that because of the weather, which again we were seeing, they had already, typically they have this huge American flag hoisted over the stage with a crane. They had already taken that down a little earlier because of the wind. And President Trump explained to the crowd that because of that, the second storm that was approaching, which would have most likely hit about the time he was in the middle of his speech, that it was just going to be too dangerous for the rally to proceed. Now, here's the thing that Mike Gallagher and I talked about as well, though. Yes, it was terribly disappointing to everybody there, and particularly to those who had been there almost 24 hours to see the president. But nobody complained. There wasn't any, people didn't storm out cursing or yelling or anything like that. When the officials opened the gates and asked everyone to quickly exit the area, go to their cars, and leave the airport, they did so. Yes, they were disappointed, but there was no trouble, no yelling and screaming, just very politely got up and left as they were asked. Now, as we saw this mass of people earlier in the day, when the weather was good and people were excited about seeing the president, we met Renee. And Renee is typical of a lot of people. And I've been to a number of Trump rallies over the years. Of course, many of you probably were at the Pickens rally this past summer. I was there broadcasting when we had 94.5 The Answer. And you see thousands and thousands of people waiting in line to get in. That's what we saw on Saturday. So Mike said, I'd like to see the first person in line. I want to see who that person is and talk with them. So we were allowed to go around to the front of the line, and a lady by the name of Renee was there. She had the Trump T-shirt on and the hat and everything, and said that she had arrived in Wilmington at 2 a.m. Saturday morning. This was her 30th Trump rally. I want to share with you a moment the conversation between Mike Gallagher and Renee. Here's her story.
I've always wanted to talk to the first person in line at a Trump rally, and we met her. Renee, it's good to meet you. How are you?
Good, very good. How about you?
How excited are you?
I'm excited. This is number 30 for me. But
number 30?
But the first time in line first.
This is your 30th Trump rally?
Yep.
Now, tell me what that's like. I mean, because you're a veteran of this process.
Yeah, I am. Well, it's kind of neat because in line, you kind of know the people. And you get to learn, and they're like, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? And because you kind of know how everything goes, you know how to get in, you know where to sit, you know where to be. So, yeah, it's kind of like a fun game.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure.
So,
where's home for you?
Originally Michigan, so I started out there in Trump rallies, went to Ohio in the 2016 process and all of that, and then down here to North Carolina in 2020 and now.
So, people describe rock groupies like for the Grateful Dead or Deadheads. They go from city to city and follow their favorite band.
Yep.
You'd probably be pretty fairly described as a Trump groupie.
I am a Trump groupie, but more than that, I'm a patriot.
Right.
And you meet like-minded patriots here, so it's amazing. It's a lot of fun, and you get to talk about things, and you're in tune with more people that line up with you. It's powerful. It's pretty good.
It feels like the more they throw at him, and the more lawsuits, criminal charges, and persecution, the more support he's getting.
Yeah. You know why? Because we're tired of it. We're tired of seeing injustice done, and we want to see justice. So, he stands up for every one of us and everything that we've been through and been persecuted for, and he's taken the arrows. You've heard the old saying that, he's taken them all for us, and he is. He's taken them all along. He's just an incredible man. I did a couple of different interviews, like with BBC, through this whole thing, and I've been kind of outspoken. So when I get in line, I kind of do the same thing, and I do like a boots on the ground type of thing.
Sure.
And kind of do it. But I have fun with this. I love it, and it's the camaraderie. You get here and you sit with these people and you get to know them. You exchange numbers, and then you've got people all over that So it's amazing.
Millions of us are working hard to try to help get him elected. We're fighting for him every single day. It's why I'm here. I wanted to kind of just pay my respects as a citizen, not as a broadcaster. If he loses, how hard is that going to be for the United States? How hard is it going to be for you personally?
It's going to be very hard. It's, it was a struggle. I wrote a couple of letters to Trump prior to him being in office and when he was in office, and did a lot for my husband. We're right here by Camp Lejeune. My husband, was affected by Camp Lejeune with Parkinson's. So, it's, but he's done a lot. I wrote personal letters, and he's got me into VAs where I needed to get the things that we needed, but I don't see that happening in this administration. So, had he not gotten the 100% service and got all that connected prior to him leaving, I don't know how we would have made it in this economy.
Sure. It's very personal.
Sorry.
You.
It's very.
No, it's very personal.
It is.
It's personal for millions of us.
Yep.
We're praying for you and your husband, and
Thank
congratulations on being number one in line. How early did you have to get here?
I was here at 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. I drove 6 hours, yeah.
6 hour drive, 2 in the morning. Well, it's going to be worth it, because I'll bet you we're going to be in for a great evening.
We are going to be in for, it's never a bad evening with him. It never is. So, but thank you. Yeah, I did. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people in line, and it's pretty cool.
Now, again, this was earlier in the day before we received the disappointing news that the Trump rally was canceled in Wilmington. He promised in his message to everyone that it would be rescheduled at a future date pretty soon. Speaking of President Trump, is he handing a golden ticket to whomever he picks as his running mate for November? Probably so. And the Republicans jockeying for that position are smart enough to know so. I'll talk with you about that in just a moment. Portions of today's show brought to you by Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, no reason to look further than Furman Ford in Lawrence, South Carolina. It's never been more important for us to support locally run businesses, and that's what you get with Furman Ford. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction. When you deal with Furman Ford, you'll always have access to Matthew Furman and Jim Furman. This is a father-son who this dealership is locally owned, family operated. It's the kind of business you're going to want to deal with. And when you call them, when you send them an email, when you stop by the dealership, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman family. They'll help you navigate some of the great deals they have on their selection of pre-owned vehicles, their own vehicles, and maybe you need service on your existing vehicle. They can help you with that too. It doesn't have to be a Ford, and you do not have had to purchase it from Furman Ford as well, and you're not going to have to wait weeks to get that car serviced as well. Maybe you need a new work truck, an F-150. Regardless of what you need, look at FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com. Check out all their inventory, pick one out, and then head over to Lawrence and make that transaction, FurmanFord.com. So if Trump does, in fact, win a second term, which we're prayerful that he is, and hopefully NBC News' poll is correct. I'm leery of polls, but I am convinced, though, and again, after seeing everyone on Saturday and some of the other rallies that I've been to recently, I think the Republicans are excited about this race and excited about the opportunity we have before us. So if he wins a second term, his running mate is probably going to be positioned to be the GOP's presidential candidate in 2028. Instead of the usual 8-year wait that some vice presidents face, Trump's selection this time could become an overnight favorite to be the GOP standard bearer in just 4 years. Alex Conant, who worked for Senator Marco Rubio's 2016 presidential campaign, said, to the extent that whoever he picks as vice president could be the presumptive frontrunner 4 years from now, it's a bigger deal than normal. The vice presidential pick could also be seen as the heir apparent of the MAGA movement, which all but completely has taken over the GOP under Trump. Allies to the ex-president and Republican strategists say that Trump is not focused on setting up an heir apparent. He's instead looking for a vice presidential candidate who will be loyal, perhaps the most important factor to Trump in picking who his running mate is. He puts a lot of emphasis on loyalty to him and to his movement. Everyone involved in the jockeying appear to know the special importance of this year's decision. Conant said, we're seeing a lot of younger Republicans clamoring for the role because they see this as not only being as vice president, but as positioning for 2028. One of the Republicans, of course, who Trump's radar is on Trump's radar as a potential running mate is our senator in South Carolina, a man I have a lot of respect for, Senator Tim Scott. He, of course, was in the primary earlier. He suspended his campaign back in November, and he's been one of Donald Trump's most prominent surrogate speakers around the country. Senator Scott's 58. He's the lone black Republican in the U.S. Senate. He's long been considered a GOP strategist as a candidate for higher office, in part because of his strong fundraising numbers and his compelling personal story. He grew up in poverty in North Charleston, a single-parent home, loves his mother, and boy, what a success story Tim Scott has. Senator J.D. Vance from Ohio is another staunch Trump ally who is also being speculated as a potential VP. He's 39 years old. He, too, is considered a future leader of the party. He told Fox News earlier this month he has not spoken to Trump about the possibility of joining the ticket, but he would help however I can. Other candidates who have emerged and been mentioned a number of times, Byron Donalds, 45-year-old congressman from Florida. He, of course, is black as well. Representative Elise Stefanik, 39, from New York. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who served in the first Trump administration and is a favorite of Trump's. And South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, 51 years old. All these folks much younger than Donald Trump. Strategists and Republican insiders have been careful to downplay how much influencing the 2028 race will factor into Trump's decision this year. Dan Eberhart, a Republican donor who initially backed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, has since united behind Donald Trump, says Trump will prioritize loyalty over votes. His team may be thinking about 2028, but his pick in 2024 will be about who best reflects on him. Trump and his team have largely kept the details of his vice presidential search under wraps. He kind of jokes about it from time to time, and that's kind of how Trump does. Occasionally, he'll add another name to a growing short list of candidates. The former president is likely, we're told, likely will wait and to make the announcement closer to the Republican National Convention. Now, I had, in a minute, we're going to get to the Furman Ford text line, and had an interesting text from someone there saying, well, why doesn't he go ahead and choose that person so they can be out campaigning when he's like tied up in court for the next few weeks, which is a good point. The Hill writes, the parlor game around who Trump will pick as his running mate and how it might affect the hierarchy of Republican politics in years to come is somewhat reminiscent of the 2020 Democrat cycle when then candidate Joe Biden spoke about being a bridge candidate to the next generation of leaders. At the time, it seemed uncertain whether Biden would run for a second term. Of course, he picked Kamala Harris. I'm sure he probably thought she was going to be better than she is. Some of the leadership, particularly in the African-American community and the Democrat Party, still view Kamala Harris as a potential candidate in 2028. I'm sure that we're going to see, regardless of the outcome in November, I think we can count on seeing Kamala Harris in 2028. The situation for Republicans scrambling for Trump's pick is a little bit different, as they would certainly become the favorite to be the heir of the GOP. Yet the prospective running mates may also want to approach the future with some trepidation. Look at Mike Pence. Things fell apart with his relationship with Donald Trump due to the protests on January the 6th. Pence's break with Trump ultimately cost him in the GOP primary. He went nowhere when he found himself running against his former boss. 864-477-5639. Love to get your comments on the Furman Ford text line. You agree that whoever is Trump's vice presidential running mate has a very good chance at the nomination in 2028? I mean, that's another reason November is so important, right? Because most likely who we choose in November on the Republican side, they could potentially be vice president for 4 years and then president for 8 years. That's important. 864-477-5639 is the Furman Ford text line. Tony writes, Joey, is it legal for liberal city councils to take down political signs on private property? Well, the liberal Travelers Rest City Council ordered for all signs to be removed from private properties, and my HOA is going to fine me if I don't remove my Trump and Adam Morgan sign from my yard. Tony, this raises a good question. I'll ask around. I don't think the city of Travelers Rest is doing this. I suspect your HOA is doing this. And yes, HOAs, if it's in your covenant and deed restrictions, HOAs can keep you from putting political signs in your yard. I suspect they're the ones doing it. Now, someone on the HOA may be blaming the city. I don't think the city of Travelers Rest, and I have some property in Travelers Rest. I don't think the city bans political signs. I don't think they can. But your HOA can. Just look at your covenant and deed restrictions and see if they have that authority. Good question, Tony. And we see this come up from time to time, particularly in political years. Our community over at Lake Kiowee, they do not allow political signs. They don't allow signs, period. You can't have a sign. You can't have a real estate sign in your yard in our community at Lake Kiowee, and that's typical among some HOAs. Appreciate your question there, Tony. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. Faye writes, Joey, an alert to my phone indicates the Republicans are preparing to dump Mike Johnson and allow the Democrat to be Speaker of the House. Are they completely crazy? Thought the plan was to elect Trump to save our republic. Marjorie Taylor Greene at this point seems to be wanting to run the party. We have a real problem. Faye, it goes back to what I was talking about just a minute ago. Yes, I'm not sure this is the time we need to be fighting over Speaker of the House. Was there disappointment over the weekend with this massive package that Speaker Johnson allowed a vote on and passed? Yes. But do we need to be going through what we did, what was it, just December or January? With all the chaos of electing him to begin with, of throwing Kevin McCarthy out? Is this a time for us to have that fight? I don't know. Love to get your comments. 864-477-5639 on the Furman Ford text line. Dom from Illinois says, Joey, I have a serious question for you and for your listeners. I was raised in a religious family, sent to a religious school, attended church every week, sometimes twice a week. I was always told to protect the children for their innocence, and yet God allows children to be slaughtered all over the world, babies being burned alive, child abuse happening with the excuse of stress on the parents, babies with cancer and other deadly diseases, abortion, or as I say, the murder of babies. Where is this kind and benevolent God? When I hear these atrocities against children, I question my faith. I try to remain strong, but I just don't understand how he could allow these things to happen to children. Adults, I can understand. We made our bed through the years, but children, especially babies, are innocent. Why are these things allowed to happen to them? Dom adds, P.S. You mentioned last week that you're glad to hear that I'm still listening. Joey, my friend, I listen every day, except Fridays. Fridays are tough, but with your podcast, I can catch up on Saturday, which is the case this week. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate you listening. And yes, you've been a long-time listener. Dom, I wish I had the answer to your question. I've struggled with that question as well. I did reply to your text. I sent you a link. I hope you'll take a look at that link and see what Chip Ingram has to say about God allowing suffering. Our text of encouragement today from Joel says, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. God bless. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. Your comments are always welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Leave a voice message. Send a quick email, joey@joeyhudson.com. So what happens to all of that loose change that you end up with? Maybe you have a jar that you throw it in, or maybe you just throw it in the trash. Evidently, a lot of people do. The answer might surprise you on this one. Portions of today's show made possible by my friends Jeff and Johnny and Kyle at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Did your refrigerator go out over the weekend? Maybe you need a new washer, dryer, dishwasher. Doesn't matter what the appliance is. If you're tired of buying appliances from inexperienced sales staff who have no appliance knowledge from the big box stores, let me encourage you to head to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They have a lot of options, brands, features, and they have the knowledge that's going to make you feel good about your purchase. They have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. They nearly perfect reviews on Google. And the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they'll help you make the right purchase. Appliances are expensive. You can't afford to make the wrong decision. They have over 11,000 square feet slam full of appliances waiting for you. Quite often you can buy today and use today. And they have expert installation, an award-winning service department, and extended warranties. They've got you covered well beyond the sale. Discounted Appliance Warehouse is also proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with up to a 7-year warranty on parts and labor. Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens and online at dawpickens.com. So Americans and their coins have an unusual relationship here. Coins don't just end up between couch cushions and in those water jugs and other places. They also land in the trash, we're told, and evidently in great quantities, a fact that sustainable waste processing company Reworld is taking advantage of. The Wall Street Journal profiles the company's now 7-year effort to retrieve coins from our landfills. They write, at a waste management facility in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, workers load incinerated trash into industrial machinery that separates and sorts metals, then sends them to get hosed down. Buckets of sorted coins result. to the tune of some $10 million in coins since Reworld started looking for change in 2017, a fraction of the estimated 68 million in coins that Americans throw away every year. Think about it, $68 million in pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters. Reworld began doing this after seeing more and more coins in the trash, where it recovers other metals like pipes and silverware as part of its main function, which is running incineration facilities that convert trash into fuel. As such, they say, the coins end up, they've been incinerated first sometimes, so about 4 million of what they've found so far has been unusable. A quirky side note to this story: the company's employees pluck out buffalo nickels, which were made between 1913 and 1938, and literally can be worth thousands of dollars. One of the employees says, as a child, I used to get excited about buffalo nickels. I thought they were rare. Here we just have jars and jars and jars of buffalo nickels. So maybe you need to start keeping up with that change a little better. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Hey, appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me as we broadcast from the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Please join our mailing list. Just go to my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and our most up-to-date news. Find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson, on Facebook and X and some of the other social media sites as well. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Keep those emails coming, joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. I hope you plan to be with us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.